Harmony Codex.
Harmony Codex, yes. I have a tale to tell.
Please.
Will I tell you my slight tale? It's a slight tale. It kind of begins at a tangent because you had alerted me to the fact that Wilson had mixed this for Dolby Atmos, and that it was an album that was created with Dolby Atmos in mind. So let's park that thought, and so completely unrelated to that. As you know, I'm a gamer. One of the ways that I cope with the things that you're talking about, talk about a darkened room in the middle of the night, I'm more likely to be playing games than making music. That's the way I keep myself busy. So one of the things I miss about my old Xbox 360 is the surround sound, because there's nothing better on the sound front as far as gaming is concerned to hear enemies creeping up behind you or to have the ambience all around you. It's fantastic. But I haven't been able to find out how to do that on PC. It seems to be that this sort of like this black art or this black matrix where nobody's actually speaking the truth. And as far as I can tell, when it comes to gaming, if the game is designed on PC for surround, it'll have a setting for that in the sound part of the game. So I guess that means most games don't. But then I later found out that some games don't have a setting. They just do it. So if you connect it to a 5.1 system, it'll go, oh, I'm part of a 5.1 system, and it'll just do it. Beyond that, I don't know. So anyway, I've been struggling for months trying to find out how to listen to 3D audio on games, and this thing came up. Well, do it with headphones. You can get 5.1 headphones. So I thought, well, that's a good solution. And then that led me to Dolby Atmos, because there's two sort of strands to Dolby Atmos. The first strand is on the creation and consumption side. You can surround yourself with, I think it's 11 speakers in total, because as well as the ground speakers, as it were, you've got raised speakers that give you the height. So you can mix music that way using thousands and thousands of pounds worth of monitoring equipment. And you can listen to it that way using the same setup. But they've got this other way of listening, which is to listen through headphones. And I thought, well, that can't possibly work. That just can't possibly work. So there's a demo on the Windows Store where you can download the Atmos thing. They're very, very coy about how this works. I can't find very much information on the psychoacoustics of it, but it's a psychoacoustic thing. So I downloaded that, and you attach it to one of your outputs. And this is kind of weird with the licensing. If you want to attach it to another output, you'd have to switch that first output off and then buy another license to put another version on another output from your... So that's all a bit weird. Anyway, so I attached it to the main output just to see if it made any difference. And I played a couple of games, and I couldn't see it making any difference. And it turns out the game has to know, and it's all too complicated. But then I left it on by accident and started listening to music. I started listening to music on YouTube. I started listening to my own stuff and your stuff, and I thought, fuck me. That sounds different. And at first it was just different. It was, what's going on here? This is different. And then I would switch it on and off. And eventually, after a couple of hours of listening, it was the opposite way round to 3D visuals. If you've ever been to the cinema, or you in the days when they sold televisions, and I went to the store to look at 3D television. I stood there with with the glasses on watching it, and I went to see Avatar and all of that, and after about 10 minutes the 3D effect just goes away. Your brain's decided it's not 3D, there's something else, and it just filters it out so you don't really see it. It's the opposite way around with Dolby Atmos for me. The more I listened, the more my brain went, ooh, that's interesting, that sounds over there, and that sounds over there, that sounds like it's a bit behind you. And on the Dolby Atmos app that you download, there are demos. And the demos, it's supposed to be... the sound's supposed to be swirling around you, and it didn't really do that. But on the professional side, if you download the Dolby Atmos professional thing, which costs quite a lot of money, in order to use it, you've got to measure your head. You've got to put a tape measure around your head to get the size of your head, and you have to measure the size of your ears and your ear canals, and you feed all of that into the software, and it creates this. It goes, oh, this is the way that you hear the world, and it recreates your hearing of the world in Dolby Atmos. Now you can't do that with the headphone version, but still in all. So now I'm listening and I'm thinking, what is going on? And the effect of the Dolby Atmos for me is, and we're getting to Steven Wilson. I'm getting there. The effect of the Dolby Atmos, when I smoke marijuana, one of the best things about it is that it makes music 3D. It makes music so much more interesting, the textural, and I mean, people know what I'm talking about. This does the same for me. It does the same, and it's almost hallucinogenically good at times. And now when I switch it off, everything sounds shit. So that's where I am, and I'm listening to AC/DC, I'm listening to Pink Floyd, I'm listening to you and me, doesn't matter what I listen to, everything sounds better with Dolby Atmos on. And we're not sponsored by Dolby Atmos, but I'm just telling you my experience. So then we come to, you had said that this album, the Harmony Codex, is designed for Dolby Atmos. So I think, wow, okay, that's interesting. So you can buy the version that has the Dolby Atmos mix on it for your Dolby Atmos system. Well, I don't have one of those systems, not in speakers anyway. And I don't really like 5.1. I've listened to traditional albums like the Yes remixes that Steven Wilson did and on the 5.1, and I don't get it. It just seems artificial to me. I guess I'm just used to the stereo. So I got the Harmony Codex, put it on, and I listened to it actually from YouTube. Although I've got the CD, I listened to it from YouTube, and I switched the Dolby Atmos on and off whilst listening to it, and it made no difference. Now that is peculiar. That means that coding's actually doing something. That coding, it knows when it's in the presence of a Dolby Atmos thing, and it goes, I don't need to change that. That's already Dolby Atmos. Which means if you get a Dolby Atmos album that's mixed for Dolby Atmos or mixed in Dolby Atmos, and you listen to it on your headphones, you'll get the effect even though you don't have the Dolby Atmos download. Okay, so now we put the CD in, and we listen to the CD, or I listen to the CD on my CD player, and the album has baked into it the Dolby Atmos thing that I've been hearing on everything I listen to, except that I can tell that it's been specifically designed for that because the dynamics are bigger. The stereos, there isn't a stereo spacing as such. What you have in Dolby Atmos from the producer point of view is you have an object-based system where you don't have to do what you do with a surround mix normally, which is you have to decide which channels your sound is going through. You just place the object. So if you have a triangle pinging away, ting, 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 like that, you can place that anywhere in a virtual room. And if you get the right software, you can pan that around. And Wilson's obviously done this, using, I don't know which program he's using, but there's a number of workstations actually have the software in. And it's wonderful. The album, the music is great. I think, it's not spectacularly different from anything he's done before musically, and it's a little bit laid back than the Porcupine Tree stuff, a little bit sort of more introspective and kind of maybe a bit more personal, I don't know. But it's great. And it's got Nick Beggs playing bass, which is he's a revelation to me. He's the, as far as I'm concerned, he's the guy from Kajagoogoo that I've completely dismissed, but turns out he's a great bass player. And the instrumentation, the sonics, the music, it's all great, and the Dolby Atmos sounds brilliant. So that's my Dolby Atmos Steven Wilson story.
Oh, nice. Well, that's you know what, I haven't done too much headphone experimentation with the Dolby Atmos. I own a pair of Dolby Atmos headphones. They're made by LG. They were my Christmas gift last year from LG. They're like earbuds, wireless earbuds, and I haven't tried listening to too much music with it because I found I was immediately turned off anytime I turned the Atmos settings on. It just sounded too foreign to me. I liked my stereo mix, and I love surround sound music, but I've always been like, I want my speakers. I want to control the space, measure at the speakers, measure the distance from my head and set everything properly. And so that way I'm under control. and yeah, the 5.1 mix of the album was fantastic. Like it took me out of my body. Like I was completely blown away by it. I would give anything to hear we're planning on building a house at some point on the property for ourselves, right? When money gets easier, if it ever gets easier. I'm trying to figure out ways to make more money. I do intend on building a room that's got an Atmos set up in it. Like that's my complete plan. Like my next stereo will be an Atmos stereo if I can afford it and I can manage it. And the first thing I'll listen to, unless something else comes along that I find is a bigger deal, will be the Harmony Codex, probably, just because it's a benchmark. And it's funny because like I agree with you, 5.1 mixes. I really like the Dark Side of the Moon ones because I love hearing different versions of Dark Side of the Moon. Because Pink Floyd is one of those bands that has no shame, right? Like they'll remix an album every 5 years and sell it again, right? Like they don't. Like I don't know if I've ever. The only reason I know I've heard the original version of Dark Side of the Moon is because I have one of my dad's records from the 70s, right? So that's the only reason I know the original mix. But I fell in love with the 25th anniversary mix that came out, 25 years after the album came out, right? So I don't have any love for the original mix. Like that's not the one I grew up on, So I don't get hung up on differences. I'm okay if the bass is too thick or the hi-hat's a little too loud in this mix. I'm okay with that. I want to hear that thing I haven't heard before. That's what I'm looking for, right? But anyway, I don't know what my point is all aside, but like the Atmos experience, the one thing I find really annoying with Atmos is my headphones have this feature that turns on by accident sometimes called head tracking, right? So when I move my head, it changes the stereo field as if I'm in a room with speakers. And that's really annoying. And it sounds so artificial that like I'm always opening up the app on my phone and going, natural. Like I don't want to hear any bass, no EQ, just give me the fucking raw mix from the studio, But I'm glad you dig the Nick Beggs. Nick Beggs has been Steve Wilson's bass player for multiple albums now. So if you like that Nick Beggs presence, you can probably go back to, I think he showed up around, I can't remember if it was Hand Cannot Erase, or I think it might have been the first album he was on, Hand Cannot Erase, maybe even earlier than that. Because before that, he used to use like he had, like Tony Levin would play bass for him. And he would, like he has a King Crimson sounding record that has, Tony Levin on bass and Robert Fripp plays some guitar and they got Pat Mastelotto on drums. And Theo Travis playing flute and saxophone. I know Theo Travis is a technically King Crimson alumni, but he was in the band for a point. This never was recorded, never went on tour because, I don't know, I think maybe the personalities were clashing or he wasn't a good fit for King Crimson. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, there was, and it was nice to hear Theo Travis back in the mix too. Theo Travis hasn't been on a couple of Steve Wilson records, so there's a few woodwind solos in that record that are just spine tingling. Like
yes, that was one of the things I had to look up because I thought, is that David Jackson from Van der Graaf? Because it was that good. It was like that Jackson could have played that, but it wasn't. But I marked those the saxophone stuff because I thought, well, that's the saxophone that I love. That really kind of gnarly, growly kind of screeching that some great saxophone players can get. Yeah, I love that.
And I don't know, like, and Soft Machine, like Theo Travis is the leader of Soft Machine nowadays. That guy that was playing horns in there.
Right.
So if you go see Soft Machine nowadays, you get to see him play sax, you get to see him play flute, you get to see him play keyboards, and he's running the whole band. Like, and it's funny seeing the old guys that are some of the guys at Soft Machine are they're in the 80s, I think now. And they're talking about like this Theo Travis is like a wizard because he can bring things to the stage that they've never been able to do, like of their old stuff. Like he's, like there's one song called Out Bloody Rageous that their live versions are always so different than the studio versions because I think the studio had too many tricks going on. But Theo Travis can bring those tricks to the stage and bring the studio version. And it was awesome because I remember when I went to see Soft Machine, that was like the one song I wanted to hear was Out Bloody Rageous from the third record. And, they did it, and I was just like freaking out,
Yeah.
I remember I kind of freaked because there was only like 20 people in the audience, right? So the band could hear every comment, every whisper, like it's like they're part of the group, So
wow.
So when Out Bloody Rageous went on, I was like, yeah, and they were like, holy shit, man! Don't actually go Out Bloody Rageous. And the song doesn't sound outrageous at all. It's a very calm song. It's very subdued and beautiful electric piano everywhere. And anyway, but I'm glad you dig it. I was the one song I was looking forward to the most on the record was Rock Bottom, the one that he did with Nanette Taib, and I couldn't stand the song. I thought it was so out of touch. Like it was a song about That's a song where she's singing about like you gotta stay alive, you gotta hang on.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah. Yeah, you mentioned that before. Yeah.
Oh, did I? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess you already did because I just said it. Yeah. All right. So then, yeah, it was. Still, I listen to the record. I have a hard time not skipping through it because the performances of the song are amazing. Like the Net's voice. I mean, like, what do you think? Like, do you not think it's some of the best vocal performances you ever heard? You know, when you hear her singing.
I didn't pick up on that. I was aware that there was some singing going on, but I was so entranced. I mean, the saxophone, because I love saxophone, that just leapt out at me. But I need to listen. Obviously, I'm going to listen to it again. It's still here. I've got it on my desk in front of me. I'm going to listen to it again. Yes. But all I could hear was this wonderful Dolby Atmos thing going on. If you haven't listened to, have you listened to this album just in stereo on your headphones?
Oh, mostly. Yeah. I've only listened to it once in 5.1 and probably 5 times in my headphones.
Oh, right. And what do you think? What do you think of the sound on your headphones then?
I like it a lot. You know, like I was afraid of the headphones.
Are you aware of the sort of thing that I'm talking about? The kind of positional thing going on. Did that hit your consciousness, or was it just because you'd heard it in a proper sort of set up kind of speaker? Maybe it didn't hit you the same way it hit me.
No, to me it sounds completely different. The in the room 5.1 mix and my headphone mix is a different ballpark.
Yeah,
altogether.
Of course, yeah.
But they're still like. It's hard because even his stereo mix when it's mixed down and it's just sort of like the cheaper version, I guess, of the Premiere edition he's trying to make, I still think is still better than anything out there. You know, as far as stereo mixes go, like it's.
Oh yeah, he's a past master. I mean, I would agree with that. I'm trying to think of an equivalent in the past. I mean, if you go back to the 60s, you could say George Martin did a lot of things, and then there was Frank, of course.
Oh yeah.
And I'm trying to think who in the past did what Wilson's doing now, and I can't really think of one because he's using modern technology in a way that's not been possible before. You know, and it's interesting. Yeah. I saw a little interview with him, or perhaps it was you that told me about it, where somebody was saying, "Well, I love the way you use all the old analog gear," and he said, "Nah, not so much."
Yeah, exactly.